Well, good morning. It's the 4th of August, and it's Sunday, weekend. Hope you're all having a good day out there. Started out a little warm today, high humidity. I don't know if it'll blow up a storm or not, but it might. Boy, after yesterday watching that video of storage legends, whoo, that was quite a spectacle. And it brought out some true colors, I would say, wouldn't you? At least I viewed it that way. I also viewed one guy trying to keep it from getting out of hand. He did everything he could. He backed up, stayed out of the way, refused to take the bait. Now, I want to tell you something. That takes a real man to do that. And a lot of patience. Storage Legends, I got to hand it to you. You handled it as well as anybody could, and a lot better than most, and certainly better than J.H. did. And I can't believe, I mean, your ex was out there filming, and apparently the discussions that her and J.H. were having happened to be about you, I guess. Because when you did that close in, he seemed to be talking about some of your anatomy. Oh my, you caught him in the act. I guess what gets me, supposedly this guy has a girlfriend in another state, obviously. He's with your ex-girlfriend there, and she's taking pictures. And they're discussing your anatomy. I've never heard of anything like that in my entire life. I'm 80 years old, and that was the first. I guess I must be very naive. I didn't know that would be a subject between an ex and whoever this J.H. is to her. He claims he's her boss, but he doesn't have employees. They're contracts. They contract. He claims that they're not employees. So, and that's confusing, and I realize you can get I think it's a 1040 that they give out in your own business. But in the states that I worked in when I was in business, the way my insurances worked, I had to file their insurance, their workman's comp that they have, with mine so that my insurance company wouldn't charge me for the wages I paid them, even though they had a 1040. I don't quite understand how he works all this out. Also, when I would register, sometimes as a general contractor, you had to register all your policies and stuff. And if you had contract employees, there were certain things you couldn't do. In other words, you were guaranteeing their liabilities and problems within that group by city charter and the agreements that you have with that city. Now, you get into a lot of big insurance problems if you don't report those people that are working for you and the amount of wages you paid them. And I know you don't call them wages, you call them contracts. I guess with these LLCs somehow cover this gray area, I'm assuming. You know, man's laws and Lord's laws, Lord's commandments sometimes. I guess it's a matter of which one you want to follow to keep you honest. Some of us lose our way in this little word called honesty. Because which path are we following? Because, does it get a little gray for you? Because if it does, you need to go back and reassess your spirituality and your real beliefs. That's just me. That's just me. And that's just my opinion. People came on And some of them wanted to attack me and say I didn't know what I was talking about. I didn't see the video and all. And they said, well, why don't you post the video up there in your thing? And I said, well, I posted the legends up there, but it's actually storage legends. So I made sure I put that up there and put parentheses around it so that people could see it. And the ones that were nailing me on stuff like that, most of them were from another channel. They spew a little bit of barbs out there. You know how that goes. And I tolerated most of it. Some of it when they started putting words in my mouth, that I don't like, never have, won't put up with it. I ask them not to do stuff like that. The ones that do it anyway, well, sayonara. Adios. They tell me that all the time. They get out there and, I don't like what you said, adios. Well, they don't say adios. They say goodbye. Auf Wiedersehen, I haven't had any say that, so I guess all the people from Germany that watch my channel are still watching, and hi out there. Yeah, and I had a lot of you guys out there way before I heard about things going on in Florida. Same thing in Netherlands. Some of them are from Ireland. Yeah, well, I mean, I happen to be on some other channels. Yeah. YouTube has been kind of like prioritized quite a bit different than I had on these other stuff. But that's okay. I've kept everything kind of separate. One channel out there, there's zero foul language and no derogatory remarks allowed and things like that. And it works out well. Everybody tries to get along. And when they don't, they just don't talk at all. Now let's get back to this storage legends and how he conducted himself. He was backing up quite a bit, not because he was scared. It's because he didn't want to get entangled in a lawsuit, because J.H. likes to sue people. And I'm wondering if he sets them up so he can sue them. I mean, he comes in there all huffy and gruff, and he's going to do something, and he's going to whip somebody, but he doesn't. He doesn't do that. He doesn't actually take a poke. But he acts like he's going to. Now, it looked like he run into storage legends. And he was so close, his tummy had to touch, because they were only about that far away up here, and he's got a pouch on him, right? Yeah. Almost bad as mine. I earned mine. When I turned 40, now I'll tell you something. Up until I was in my late 30s, one of my hobbies was lifting weights. People do that. And I was in business, and other business people, matter of fact, one of the bankers a personal friend, we used to use his basement to do that. It was just a way it was more like a get together and BS thing. We'd get in there and do our workouts and stuff, and then have a couple of beers. Of course, the workout goes down the tubes. Anything you gained, you probably lost when you drank a couple beers. But anyway, but when I was in my 40s, I didn't have as much time, and I didn't have the enthusiasm for that. So I started putting on more weight. Back then, I was just barely under 200 pounds, and you work off the fat. But at 40, it's hard to work the fat off. I want to tell you, it's a lot of work. And you start gaining again. And I did work my way up to about, it was over 260, maybe 270 pounds. Someday I'll put a picture up here when I put all that weight on. Oh my goodness. It was hard to get it down. I'm still kind of heavy. I weigh about 235, something like that right now. And I really shouldn't weigh over about 190, maybe 200 pounds at the most. And the doctors used to try to get me down to at least 200. And the last time I seen, well, in the last 40 years, I've seen 210. Enough of that. Let's get back to this doggone auction. You know, you guys seen my video yesterday. You know that I was completely disappointed in how a person can call herself a Christian and spew evil from their mouth and act the way they do and bait people, and it makes you wonder about their past, the talks they put on. I mean, this guy's on there live just about every Sunday, and he gets carried away, by the way. I mean, there's been different times he's took his video down and removed it by the next day because he said something that maybe wasn't so good. I do have part of one of them that I kept. Shows him in kind of a, not a, sure it isn't a positive light, but it did show some of the things that made me view him in the manner that I do. And my personal belief, now this is only personal, I think he has the tendencies to act as a narcissist. And I looked at an article not too long ago. It said 5 things that evil people do. And it was an eye-opener, and I thought, boy, all along when I was feeling kind of funny watching the videos and responding to them, and some of them I patted him on the back, and I thought, am I catching on to this stuff? Is it like a disease? Does it catch on to people? Is it the kind of disease that would make you drink Kool-Aid? Is it like a Jim Jones thing over in Guyana? I don't know. But I had the feeling. And I'll have to admit, I did sit down and think a long time about it. And I said, well, I'd be better off if I can just be as honest as possible. And walking a picket fence and staying on the middle of it, and you get all these barbs coming up in the middle, right? It's pretty hard to do. It's hard to balance. And both sides are throwing spears at you. Oh, my goodness. And they both want you to look at the other side, or at their side. They say, well, that's not true what you said, right? And I said, well, okay. And the more I looked at both sides, the more I realized both sides were rotten. They just were. I wouldn't want them around me. I don't want them as neighbors. I certainly didn't want to follow them. And I'll tell you what, I did go as far as to unsubscribe, not in meanness, not in orneriness, but because I just didn't feel it was the right thing to be doing at the time. If I was going to be honest with them, how could I follow them? And I don't follow either parties in the neighbors thing. Now, on this other deal about the auction, yes, I do right now. I follow storage auctions. No, I don't follow the other one. I don't intend on following the other one anymore because I don't feel very good listening to that evil that comes out. Once you can't unhear it. If it's there, and you remember it. And it's not, you shouldn't allow that stuff to affect you. I don't know how different I could put it. But, it's my opinion, and I'm not saying that you should follow what I do, because that would be unfair to you. You have a mind, and you should be able to decipher these things and see if it's something that you want to be associated with. I mean, we're all different. Good Lord, if we were all the same, you realize how boring in this world would be? People that are individuals, I pat you on the back. I think that's the greatest thing in the world. To be able to stand up and say, I'm me. I am me. I'm not you. I decide for myself. I don't need you to tell me what to do. That is a trait I love. I like that. So if I'm giving an opinion, that's all it is. It's information that I hold in my head, how I feel about it, and I put it out there, and you can decipher it any way you want. You can shut it off, or you can listen, you can heed it, or you don't have to do anything about it. It's your decision. And you don't have to make me any promises. I'm not asking for that. If you do enjoy this, go ahead and subscribe, if you will. If you want to give a thumbs up, boy, that's great. If you give it a thumbs down, I'll understand that. You're not going to like everything I say. Some things you may understand and still not like it. We all have our differences of opinion. I've got one out there that, well, more than one. We've had differences of opinion since day one. And we seem to be able to get along because I don't call them names and they don't call me names. We just agree to disagree, that's all. And what a wonderful world that is, because I wish our country was run that way. At least we can negotiate some of the finer points, right? Whew. I love that part. Too bad. You know, when I looked out there and I seen the loss of control by the auctioneer, I was thinking about all those poor people that were having to listen to this crap. And that auctioneer didn't do anything about it. First he tried to run Legends off. Legends didn't start it. He got out of his car or vehicle, and here comes that JH up there spewing hate and yelling, and what a despicable transaction that was. Then, here comes the auctioneer. You need to get in your vehicle. You need to leave. I want you out of here. He didn't start it. He came there. He makes his living by buying those lockers, the stuff that's in those lockers, or those containers, and then reselling them. That's how he makes a living. Good Lord. Oh, I hope the Lord is looking down and saying, hey, fellas, straighten your act up. Oh, my goodness. Well, then he had a hard time keeping them both. Actually, he didn't have a hard time keeping Legends away. What he had a hard time was keeping Jeremy away because he kept wanting to get in the face of Legends. Yeah, kept getting right in there. I mean, that far away, nose to nose. Things were touching. Oh, my goodness. Oh. What else happened there? Oh, man. The very end of the video, it looked like they were about to get into it, and it was ended. And I'm not sure why. I don't know what happened. Later on, he had said that there would be more to come, and he didn't have any marks on him. You know, Legends didn't. So I'm assuming somebody got in between them and kept him from coming to blows. At least I would hope so. The physical aspect of it, it's not something that you put on display. I found out there was some young children in strollers there. I didn't realize that before. I guess I wasn't looking. One of my viewers happened to mention that. But sometimes, you know, families come to those auctions trying to get a bargain. And you can imagine what they thought of what was going on out there. The language, oh my goodness. I'm surprised that somebody didn't say something, but maybe they're all a little leery. Yeah. If people don't stand up and defend themselves and say, hey, look, that's not right, people like J.H. will walk right over the top of him, and he would have walked right over the top of Legends if Legends would have allowed him to. But he wouldn't. He stood his ground, and at the appropriate times, he backed around into a circle and said, hey, cool it. And he tried to get the auctioneer to level things out. And the auctioneer, quite frankly, should have probably sent J.H. home. But he didn't. Of course, they're buddies, J.H. and the auctioneer. Matter of fact, they get on that show on YouTube and talk things over. Oh, I don't know what else. Hopefully you went over there and you looked at it. By the way, it won't be too long. I'll be on live on here. I'll put a little notice up tomorrow or the next day. I want to make sure everything's been worked out. Be on with YouTuber. It won't be on my channel. It'll be on his channel. And we'll discuss a few things. I don't know what the subjects will be about yet. Like I said, I'm being interviewed by somebody else. And it's Millstown is who it is, but Super Dave out there, give you a shout out, Super Dave. I don't know if you're watching my channel today or not, but it's kind of a boring day probably because I'm assuming everybody looked at that video, and I gave my 2 cents worth yesterday on it, and I'm reiterating it today that I haven't changed my mind about it. I know a lot of people wanted me to. Most of them that were dead set against it were from another channel out there, obviously. A lot of hate there, a lot of hate. Don't know why people hate so much. You know, the hate hurts you worse than the person that you hate. The person you hate will get mad at you, but you have to live with that same hate. And sometimes you can't sleep. I'd be willing to bet that J.H. had a hard time sleeping yesterday, and I bet his blood pressure was way up here. Sometimes the Lord has to warn you about stuff like that. And I don't know if he's big enough to let the Lord talk to him. He seems to think that he has a superior intellect to everybody that he meets. At least he talks that way. He doesn't talk too much good about people on his live. Maybe. Nah, I'm not going to send anything over to him. I don't want you to waste your time. Well, with that, I'm going to let you go. And listen, you have a good day out there. I hope your weekend turns out fine. May the good Lord bless you. Adios. Goodbye. And the German way to say it is Auf Wiedersehen.